Hello and welcome to today's edition of Tutorial Tuesday. Today we're going to be talking about Microsoft's spreadsheet program, Excel. I'm going to be using Excel 2019. However, if you go online to office.com, you can see that they also have a version for free. This is not to be confused with Office 365, which is a subscription-based version of the program, as well as the Microsoft Office suite. But that's not necessary to have for the things that we're going to be talking about today. I won't be going over the Office cloud-based Excel, just the local-only version of Office 2019, Excel in particular. But if you choose to use Office Excel Online, it will look very similar, if not the same. All that's required to use for Office Online is an account through Microsoft, and then you will be able to sign in and use any of their online available applications. And please note that to use these Office Online applications, it is free. So please don't think that you have to purchase a subscription to Office 365 in order to use them. You do get some additional features with the 365, but it's not necessary for going over the basics in this tutorial. So let's get started and try to get yourself familiar with the Excel interface. When you open Excel, you'll see that you may choose from a blank workbook, or they have several templates to choose from. You can also search for other templates by clicking into the search bar at the top. But today we're just going to start with a blank workbook. Now, whereas in Google Drive for their Sheets program, they refer to everything, all their sheets combined as one spreadsheet, whereas in Microsoft Excel, they refer to all your sheets as a workbook. Or rather, each sheet that you have open is called a worksheet, and all worksheets combined is called a workbook. As soon as you open a blank workbook, or worksheet rather, and you see a lot of grid space that's blank, it may look a little bit intimidating at first, but it's really not that bad once you get into it. One of the first things you can do is, if you have a higher resolution screen, is you can click on Zoom in the toolbar and simply choose 200% to get a much easier view of what you're working with. Each grid is quite small to begin with, and this makes it a little bit easier to see at start. Each one of these boxes is called a cell, and each cell has something called a cell address that corresponds to the letter and number that it's associated with. For instance, the top left corner would be A1, and the one that I click on here is G11. You will use these addresses in your formulas later on in the formula bar. You can take a minute to go over all of the options from the toolbars at the top. Underneath Home, you can change your text the way it appears in both size and color. You can change the type of numbers you're working with, as well as background colors to differentiate the different types of things you're working with. Insert will give you various types of things to insert. Page layout will give you many options to how your spreadsheet is viewed. Formulas are essentially the heart and soul of any spreadsheet program. This will give you what you're looking for to do any sort of mathematical formula. Also refer to your help toolbar if you ever need assistance with anything. Just below is your formula bar, where you can manually enter in a formula or use the insert function that will allow you to simply search for what you're looking for. If, for instance, I click on average and OK, this will bring up a dialog box, and you can see that in the formula bar it starts the formula for me. Any formula starts with an equal sign followed by the name of the function along with an open and close parenthesis. This dialog box allows you to choose where each cell begins and ends for your formula. We'll try that in just a second. In this example, I'm going to assume that I have a group of people that's doing a bake sale for a charity. I want to keep up with each person and how much money they raised during each bake sale. So for this, I'm going to use the A column for the person's name. So in cell A1, I will go ahead and type in name, and in B1, I will type in amount money raised. Now if you click back on cell A1, or rather C1, you can see that at some point the word raised looks like it's in column C, but it's actually not. If you'll click inside cell B1, you'll see that in the formula bar, all the text is still there. If you ever want to see everything that's in this cell, you can hover over in between columns B and C until you get two arrows pointing left and right, and you can either double click and it will adjust automatically, or you can hold on to left click and drag to any position that you'd like. Now I'm going to input my data for names and amount raised. With my information now put in, you can see that as I started typing into the B column, my A column names got cut off a little bit. So I will go ahead and double click to adjust that real quick. Now I'm going to show you a few different ways to get the sum or total of money amount raised. You can start by clicking in a blank cell. It doesn't matter which one. I'll choose D8 for this example. And in the formula bar, we will start by typing in the equal sign. And we will type in manually B2 plus C2 plus B2 plus B3 plus B4 plus B5 plus B6. And I'm glad that I showed you that mistake, because it should show you every cell will be highlighted as you type it out in the formula bar. This makes it very easy to distinguish what you're working with, and I was able to quickly recognize my mistake. So after you hit enter, you will see that this now gives me the total of cells B2 through B6. However, this was done the hard way. So let's see if we can figure out an easier way to do this. I'm going to choose the next cell down. And in the formula bar, I will choose equals and sum open parenthesis. I'm going to start with cell B2, and I'm going to use colon B6 and close the parenthesis. When you use a colon, this will get everything between cells B2 and B6. Hit enter, and it gives you the same amount. If you don't want to type in each cell every time, you can also click the cell that you want in your formula. We'll just simply change this so that we still have our equal sum function open. We're going to start by clicking cell B2, and you can hold down the Shift button while you choose B6, and you can see that it puts the colon and correct cell information in for you. Just put a closed parenthesis and hit enter, and you still get the same result. Another quick way to get your total is to use the Auto Sum button in the top toolbar. You may click and hold Shift down to the cell that you want to use, or you may click and drag down and it will automatically select them for you. Then click your Auto Sum button and it will appear the total in the next cell down. Also note that besides Auto Sum, you may use other functions such as average, count, minimum, maximum numbers, and if you click the More Functions option, you can choose from another list. For this example, we'll choose Sum and click OK. Make sure that you have a blank cell highlighted, otherwise it will overwrite the one that you were clicking on earlier. And this number will simply be the range of numbers that you're trying to add. So again, that will be B2 colon B6, and click OK. And again, we have the same total of 175. If you simply just want to see a total without having to insert it into one of the cells, you can click on any column and it will add the numbers for you as shown at the very bottom. You also get your average and count. I'll take the total out that we had earlier by clicking the delete button on that cell. And when I click on that column, you'll see that I still have a sum of 175. Now let me give you a brief example of how to format and edit the text and cell itself on how these look. We'll click inside cell A1 and in the home ribbon, click the letter B to make it bold. Since this row is where I'm going to be naming things, I'll just go ahead and make everything in this row bold. In the B column, since I'm dealing with money, we can try to make these cells background color green. I'm going to start by clicking in cell B2, and while I'm holding down left click, I will drag down to B6, the last entry that I have. This option is called Fill Color, and if you choose the drop down arrow, you can choose which color you want. I'll choose this lighter green. That makes it just a little bit easier to differentiate the things that you're dealing with. If you have lots of more entries to put in and you don't want to change that manually each and every time, you can simply click on the entire column and do the same thing. And from now on, every entry that you put in will automatically have that background color. You can also easily change the font. I'll change the names to something else. We'll choose Arial. These options are very similar to what you would find in any word processing program. Something that you may already be familiar with through word processing programs is the use of cut, copy, and paste. And those same principles still apply in a spreadsheet. You can simply select a cell or a range of cells, right click, hit copy if you want to make a duplicate entry of these, or in this case I'm going to choose cut and move them from the B column over to the C column. I'll right click where I want to start and choose paste. Something else to talk about is the use of what's called autofill. Autofill will predict the numbers or things that you're talking about or writing down, and it can predict for you what you want, and as you highlight them in the next column or cell over, it can predict what you want to use. Let me give you a quick example. Let's say that I'm going to make the month appear at the very top. If I type in January and I click in this cell, you'll notice that in the bottom right corner there is a highlighted area. It's a little bit colored in, it's green in my case. And my cursor goes into what looks like a plus sign. If you click and hold on to your left click button, drag it over to the right, it will then auto fill in the months for you. You can see a highlight of that popping up on the screen right now, and if I let go, you'll see that it actually populates those cells for you. Now it already knows the months of the year, but numbers are a little more hard to predict. You'll need at least 2 entries before it can predict what's going to happen next. Let's assume that each person has a goal of getting $10 more per month. So if I put in 30 for Stephanie's February amount, I can then choose these two. And when I get the little colored entry in the bottom right corner and I change my cursor over to the plus sign, I'll click and drag over to fill in, and you can see that it knows the pattern. You can do this for multiple lines as well, or rows rather. I will highlight Atlanta and Ashwin's, drag those over to now see what their new goals will be. Staying on the theme of clicking and dragging, you can also change your formula from earlier. In this cell, we had gotten our function sum and chose our range. Now, if you remember, we used the B column. Now it has changed to C. This is another great thing about spreadsheets, is that it will automatically move these for you. You don't need to rename the formula all over again. It simply knows what you had moved from the previous position and renames it for you automatically. We're going to simply take out our range. We have our open and close parentheses ready to go. I will click inside our new range, which would be C2, and I will click and drag all the way through I6 and hit enter. And we now have a new sum of 1,405. Now let's say you want to sort by who raised the most money in January. The easiest way to do this is to select the column and use the sort function in the data ribbon. You want to make sure that you don't have anything else in this column besides the amount of money. I have a previous entry in this cell, so I will simply right click, hit cut, and paste in the next column over. With that out of the way, highlight all of column C, or if you just want a specific range, you may do that as well. And I'm going to choose the one that has Z on top and A at the bottom, meaning that I'm going to start with the highest number working down to the smallest. After you click that, it'll simply ask you, do you want to stay within this one selection, or do you want to go across the entire sheet? And we want to use the whole sheet, so you'll want to make sure you choose the option selected, expand the selection. and click sort. And you can see that Ashwin had the most with 65. Of course, you don't have to use numbers with this. You can also use letters, or in this case, names. So I will choose the A column, and I want to sort alphabetically from A to Z. Again, you want to expand this selection, choose sort, and now I have everybody's name in alphabetical order. There are many more things to learn with a spreadsheet program. I'll be going over some of these in a later video, but I hope what I've given you today was a very good basic understanding on how to get started with Microsoft Excel 2019. Thanks for watching.